Hello, welcome to this AWS tutorial. In this video, we will build a machine learning cloud architecture where you can use API Gateway and AWS Lambda. That will be fun. First of all, let's think about machine learning model. First thing to do is to train this model. Once we have completely trained our machine learning model, then we will have two very important components. The first one is machine learning model binary file, and the second one, machine learning model endpoint, which we will use later. And all of these things will be made by Amazon SageMaker. Then let's talk about AWS Lambda. AWS Lambda will trigger the endpoint with some task, and our task will be make a prediction. And machine learning model endpoint will give a response, and the response is the answer from the endpoint. It's a predicted value. Now let's look at the right side. Here is the users, and the users want to input some data and get insight from artificial intelligence. You can ask, can they send their input data directly to AWS Lambda? The answer is no. So maybe, can they send their input data directly to machine learning model endpoint inside Amazon SageMaker? The answer is also no. We need one extra component in our architecture between these ones, and it is Amazon API Gateway. So look at this simple. Here is the user input data, and here is Amazon API Gateway functionality. One of the features we can use in Amazon API Gateway is REST API. REST API can receive user input data and pass it directly to AWS Lambda. In our architecture, AWS Lambda has a direct connection with machine learning model endpoint, so Lambda is able to receive back predicted values from machine learning model to REST API. So in our action plan, we have 3 steps: 1, 2, and 3. You can follow further in this video.
Here you go. So now we are on AWS console, and in this we need to create our machine learning model. We need to train it. We need to create an endpoint for this model, and in order to do this, we need to use Amazon SageMaker, because Amazon SageMaker is for build, train, and deploy machine learning models at scale. So this is exactly what we need to do. Okay, and in here we need to create an instance, because the best way to do training and to specify hyperparameters, to load initial data, and to create endpoint that will be used for API Gateway and Lambda is notebook instances. Okay, so we need to create the first one. The notebook instance name, let it be a machine learning model instance, and the notebook instance type, let it be MLT2 medium. This is not so powerful, but for this video it's quite good and it is enough. And then we need to create IAM role, and I'm creating a new one, and because this role allows AWS SageMaker to call S3 buckets, so we will need it. So I need to create this role right now. It is creating. Yes, it is succeed. You created an IAM role, and finally I can to finalize creating my notebook instance by clicking this button. Yeah, success, your notebook instance is being created, and so far it is pending. I need to wait a couple of minutes until it will be active. So let's wait 4 or 5 minutes. And finally, my notebook instance is in service. So now I can open my Jupyter. Perfect. And at this moment, my notebook list is empty, so I can use some SageMaker examples. And I think that for this video, the perfect example is breast cancer predictions. So I'm going to use this. Yes, create a copy. Create a copy for me. Perfect. Now this notebook is loaded in my instance, and here you go. So I'm not going to go very deeply inside the notebook itself because it's not the point of this video. But they may think, okay, we need to import some libraries. It's both or free is SageMaker. I initiate a session, so I executing the cell. Okay, and then I import a Python libraries. It's a pandas, numpy, matplotlib, time, JSON, and also it's SageMaker, Amazon Common. After this, I need to load my data for training. It is going from this CSV file, and this is the list of the features that I'm using for training the model and to make up predictions. So I'm going to load my data and see what's happening. Perfect. And as you can see, my training data has 569 observations and 32 features. This is how the data is look like, and this is quite important because we need to know how to prepare our payload in API gateway when we make a new predictions. So keep it in mind. This is the targets B and M that our model try to predict because it's a classification problem. And then I need to create the features for and labels for our training job. That means I'm splitting the data into 80% for training, 10% for validation, and 10% for testing. So here you go. Perfect. Then I'm preparing my model for training. So okay, as you can see now I'm using S3 bucket. This is why we need to create a IAM role and just 1 minute ago. And yes, I need to use a linear validation data framework. And here you go. I'm going to train my model, and one thing I need to highlight is the hyperparameters. You can specify your own hyperparameters. This is my own, and I'm using a 10 epochs, and the loss is absolute loss, so I want to execute this one. So the job name is demo linear and the timestamp of today, and then I'm going to train. So the train is in progress. I need to wait a little bit because the notebook instance is not so powerful for this video. So let's wait, I think 2 or 3 minutes. Finally, after 4 minutes, my training job is completed. And okay, so once I have my machine learning model trained, I can to host it. So I'm hosting it in S3 with all artifacts. So executing this line, here's ARN for my artifacts. Here's it. And once we have a setup model, we can configure what our hosting endpoint should be. And in here we will specify AC2 instance type to using for hosting, initial number of instance, and hosting model name. So okay, what's important to know? Instance type, it is ML M4 X large. This is the endpoint instance type. And then initial instance count, I'm using only one because it's for demonstration, but if you are expecting the big traffic, you should use a larger instance type or a bigger amount of instances. So model name is this variable, and then yes, I executing. So this is the demo linear configuration with the today timestamp and endpoint configuration ARN. Okay, and I also executing this line. Yeah, my endpoint is being creating because in here we have just specified some information for our endpoint, and in this cell we are creating. So let's wait another couple of minutes and let's come back. Okay, and finally, the status of our endpoint is in service. That means that we have just created our endpoint and it is ready for use. Okay, now we can to play around and make some predictions. And for example, right here, we can test our model, and here's the performance metrics of our model by validation set. It's quite good metrics. And then prediction accuracy is 45% and baseline accuracy is 64%. It's quite normal. And okay, I'm not deleting the endpoint right now because we will use it in our API. So now we can come back in AWS SageMaker, and here you go. And we need to look for some inference. Look, and here's the endpoints. And this one that we will use for our API and AWS Lambda. So here's the creation time, status in service, and ARN and the name. That's perfect. Okay, and now I need to close my notebook because I will not use it anymore. So for now, we need to create a Lambda function. Remember why we need a Lambda function? Yes, Lambda function will trigger our endpoint with a payload which is delivered by API gateway. So let's go to Lambda right here. I open it in new tab, okay? And I need to create a new Lambda function by clicking this button, just like this. Okay, and let it be my Lambda function name is machine learning model Lambda. Yeah, and runtime, let it be Python 3.6. Okay, this is a good option for our example. So about permissions, by default Lambda will create an execution role with permission to upload logs to Amazon Cloud Virtual Logs. You can customize this default role later when adding triggers. So I need to create I need to create a new role with basic Lambda permissions. And once I create this Lambda role, then I will need to modify it a little bit. So I will show you how to do it. Okay, just for now, I need to create my function. Perfect. And here's it. Here's my function, and it's named ML model Lambda. And when you scroll down, it is the Lambda function Python code. So, and you can modify this code by customizing your functionality. And in my example, in our example, we used a predefined Lambda function. So I will show you it right now how it looks like. So here's it. I'm just copy and pasting it from AWS documentation website. It is right here. You will find this code example at the link in the video description. So this looking good, and I need to save my Lambda function right now. Okay. Yeah, I need to deploy it. It's deployed, and one thing I need to do right here. You see here's an endpoint name. Okay, and endpoint name should be specified as environment variable. So I just copy and paste this environment variable name. I go to configuration. As you can see, here's environment variables tab. So I need to add one more environment variable. It is endpoint name from the code, and the value of this endpoint name, let it be this endpoint. That means my Lambda function will trigger this endpoint with a payload which goes from API gateway. So I need to save it. Perfect. I'll come back to code. Here's it. Another thing we need to do with a Lambda is permissions. So I go to IAM role. Here's IAM service. I need to find the role which is responsible for Lambda execution. Here's it, ML model Lambda role. Here's it. I open it up, and here's my permissions. The relationship is looking good. If I open this one, here's the policy that my Lambda function is being used. And in here, I can edit my policy. Okay, so I'm editing in JSON format, and also I just copy and paste the code from official AWS documentation, and it's gonna be right here. Yes, and this lines of codes, what is telling? This line of code is telling to the Lambda function that it allows to invoke SageMaker Endpoint. If I don't put it in this policy, so my Lambda function will not be able to invoke a SageMaker Endpoint. So, okay, I pressing review policy, and that's it. I want to save it. Perfect. No errors in here. And with the Lambda function, I think we are done. Here is my Lambda function. And so we are ready to move to the next step. And the next step is to create API gateway. So I go to API and gateway. So I need to create a new API for my machine learning model. And Lambda function will trigger this endpoint with the payload delivered from API gateway. So I think in our example, we can use a simple REST API. Okay, I need to build a new one. Yeah, create your first API. Perfect. Yes, I need to create a new one. API name, let it be ML model API description, my machine learning model API endpoint type, let it be regional. Okay, so let's create it. Okay, and now it's a framework for Amazon API Gateway, and in here I need to create a new resource. And you can specify the name of your resource as you want. For example, in my case, let it be API machine learning model. Okay, so I'm creating this resource, and inside this resource, what we can to do, we can to create a method. Okay, and the method we need to post, because we need to pass our payload to a Lambda function, so we need to use a post method. Here's it. Here's the integration time. It is a Lambda function, and remember how our Lambda function is named. Here's it, and our Lambda function is machine learning model Lambda. Okay, I need to specify this in this field, Lambda function. Yeah, or you can select it from the list. That's perfect. I need to save it. Yeah, add permission to the Lambda function. Yeah, I'm agreed with that. Perfect. As you can see, here, this is the schema showing what is connected with my API gateway. And now I am able to test it. And now you can test your API gateway by passing the payload in your API gateway. And the payload should be pasted right here in request body. And okay, let's specify our payload for making a prediction. Okay, so we need to specify the name of our payload is data, and then we can specify the actual values that is going to be pushed into the model endpoint, and based on these input values, the model will return a prediction in our machine learning classification problem. So our payload, let it be like this, and one thing I need to mention right here, here are the 32 features, the same number of features that we are using in our model training, because the model should understand the payload in the same way it was trained. So here's the actual values that we pushed into our model endpoint. So we need to test it right now. And here's it. Here's a status 200, that is good. And here's a latency, and the response is B. This is the prediction to our payload. It's a B. So classification model endpoint working perfect. Hey, and I almost forgot to show how to deploy our API, and this is how we can do it, is to create a new stage for production, for example, and from this point we can to invoke our URL API from outside. That means you can bring it into the Python code, for example 3.7. I'm importing JSON and request packages, and here I'm set up my payload. It is my URL for my API ML model, and then it's a data payload, and the data payload is the same what I used in my testing. It is right here, and then I can get a feedback from the API. It's a prediction B, the same as in testing phase. So that's it from this part. So that's it I wanted to show you right now, and I hope that this video was useful for you, and give me ideas what I have to do next if you want to learn something. So see you there. Bye bye.